Hello, good morning. Welcome to Southminster Steinhauer United Church. We are all of us spiritual seekers. And whether we're here or at home, we're united in community. And so no matter where you are, no matter what your week has been like, if you're feeling put together or one big mess, no matter whether you've been here many times or this is your first, welcome. You're accepted and welcome here, just as we all are. And that includes many things, doesn't it? As we often say, we're welcome, all of us, all ages, all sizes, all colors, all cultures, all expressions, all sexualities, all abilities, all religions, or many or none, all people, period. And if we look around and we're not all of those things, then as a community we have more work to do to be the inclusive and welcoming place that we can yet be. Also, as always, we acknowledge that anytime we gather here, we do so in this part of the prairies located on Treaty 6 territory, where we commit, all of us, to respecting the history and languages and cultures, spirituality of the First Nations people and the Métis. And as we honor this relationship and commitment with words, we seek also to do it with our attitudes and with our actions, to acknowledge land and its history wherever we find ourselves, and to put steps and real heart toward the difficult work of truth and reconciliation. So as we gather here, this community that spreads its arms and heart wide, beyond this room, beyond this city even, we do gather together to celebrate that it's a new day. It's always a new day, because a new one is always dawning. Let's sing our way into our gathering today. We'll share just a few invitations and some things going on in the life of the community this morning. The first and foremost of which is that our beloved part of the ministry team, Nancy Steves, is back from vacation. We welcome you back, Nancy. It's good to be in team and partnership with you again in person. And as we think about our community, we think, of course, of our broader community, wherever we happen to be. And there's always a chance to connect if you're not happen to be local or in this room together. There's a time to connect digitally, and every week following our gathering at 11:15 Mountain Time, our Zoom connection happens. So anyone joining online live is welcome to join. Just after we finish here at about 11:15, we will gather as a digital community and say hello to each other, talk about the morning, and be able to do that with each other. The link you'll find in your morning messenger or on our website as you saw it on the screen. And also coming up in 7 days, a little bit of a party. Let's call it a party that we've called Welcome Fest for the last number of years, minus the last 2 where we haven't met. So we are looking forward to having a morning next week where we gather in this space or online, all ages, to have an all-ages experience with one another. What we learn from each other and each generation is invaluable, and we'll do that together. And then, as if that weren't party enough, we'll head outside for more fun and festivities with inflatables, with food for all ages. And so come ready to eat lunch. There will be burgers and hot dogs, vegetarian and vegan included, as well as all of the things that come after that are really fun to eat, like cotton candy and popcorn and ice cream and things like that. So that's next week, starting at 10. Come, one and all, spread the word. Is there anything else to speak to in terms of announcements from those in the room? Anything else we're forgetting? No. Okay. Let's take some time for all ages. It's summertime. Our families and our kids are doing lots of other things, especially on a long weekend, but all through this summer. And so our time for all ages really is all ages. It doesn't mean the wisdom that we would speak with our children isn't applicable to us. That's always true. But it's true even if there are no children in the room. And so today's wisdom, we hope, comes from a book entitled We're All Wonders. This was a New York Times bestseller written by R.J. Palacio. It was then turned into a movie called Wonder, but this is the children's version of that, entitled We're All Wonders, by the same author, R.J. Palacio. I know I'm not an ordinary kid. Sure, I do ordinary things. I ride a bike. I eat ice cream. I play ball. I just don't look ordinary. I don't look like other kids. My mom says I'm unique. She says I'm a wonder. My dog Daisy agrees. But some people don't see that I'm a wonder. All they see is how different I look. Sometimes they stare at me, they point or laugh, they even say mean things behind my back. But I can hear them. It hurts my feelings. It hurts Daisy's feelings too. When that happens, I put on my helmet. I put Daisy's helmet on too. And then we blast off. Up, 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 up through the clouds, across the galaxy, all the way to Pluto. We say hello to old friends. From far away, the Earth looks so small. I can't see any people, but I know they're there. Billions of people. People of all different colors. People who walk and talk differently. People who look different, like me. The Earth is big enough for all kinds of people. I know I can't change the way I look. But maybe, just maybe, people can change the way they see. If they do, they'll see that I'm a wonder. And they'll see that they're wonders too. We're all wonders. Look with kindness, and you will always find wonder. Today is the fourth in our series that we've been calling Nerd Wisdom. It's this time to look at science fiction, fantasy, science, and other intellectual pursuits, and to think really about what wisdom they might have for us living the best lives that we might live. It's not that we don't always do that, but it's a time to focus on that. And when we read a story like We're All Wonders, we recognize that in our difference, in our uniqueness even, we can find hope. It's difficult, more so, to find hope in the difference, in the challenge, in this case, in the bullying. But it is possible for each of us to find what hope we need and to work towards living the life that we need to live. And so we sing a song about that hope and about that journey that we all take.
Each time we gather, we light a candle of community, a candle that reminds us that we are born of light and ever seeking it, a candle that reminds us of our gratitude for the gift of light in each day and the gift of light in each being, a light that reminds us to honor the unique light in each one of us. We take a moment as we gather today, a moment to acknowledge the places of deep darkness that we face in our lives or we face in our world, the challenges, the needs, those things that we hold as community and share with one another, making the burden just a little lighter. And so I want to invite us to take a moment to name aloud here at the microphone so that we can all hold it with one another, or to name it in the silence within you, those places of need, those places of hurt, those places of harm, those places of worry or concern. And we want to acknowledge that we hold them together. And so we might respond to what it is you place with us. In this, our time of need, we might respond together. May love abound. So I invite you, there's a microphone here at my left, to come and place those places of need, whether they're personal or social or global or universal, that we might hold them together and acknowledge our deepest hope that love abound.
I'm thinking of the children and the teachers who have just gone back to school. And I was talking to my sister-in-law in Prince Rupert, who teaches. And there's a real need for more educational assistance in some of the classrooms. And to support those children who, in their own uniqueness, need extra support. So in this, our time of need,
May love abound.
I'm thinking this morning of persons who find themselves walking a journey of depression, which often can be accompanied by poverty, housing concerns, all sorts of overwhelming problems. And I hold them all in our hearts this day. In this, our time of need,
May love abound.
Good morning. I want to give special thanks to a woman who's been my wife for over 57 years and who's telling me to shut up and be quiet right now with her hand on my knee. She's been looking after me very well for those 57 years, in spite of all the unhappy things that I did. Recently, through my illness, she's been exceptionally good. And she just celebrated her 80th birthday. In this time of need, I love it.
Or I think we might say, in this abundant blessing, may love abound.
I'm here with my brother-in-law this morning, Derek, over there, whose wife is in a very sad, difficult situation in England. And so in this time of his need, of our need, may love abound.
May love abound.
I don't know if anybody's been seeing these news reports of bears in Banff and Jasper coming onto people's roofs, eating all of their cherries and apples and crab apples, and then being on their roofs of their house. Over this summer, I had a chance to be at a cabin, a fairly remote cabin, and I had bear company right up against the screen of the window. I can show pictures, one day I will. But, you know, it really made me feel in a really personal way just how humans are forcing animals that have no real interest in being with us to be with us, because it's the easiest way to find food. And it's concerning because so many bears this past year have had to be not just relocated, but actually put down, euthanized. And I think that's a concern. We're continuing a path we know is wrong. So in this, not an abundant blessing, in this time of need,
May love abound. As we think of those who are affected by fires and smoke, animals and other more than human forms and expressions of life, and our brothers and sisters, in this our time of need, may love abound. We also want to place with each other those things that we're celebrating, those places that we feel deep gratitude, and we know the taste of gift and joy. And so I invite you to, in the silence of your own heart or at the microphone, to name those blessings that we might acknowledge with one another in this abundant blessing. May love abound.
I got, so loud. I got a little Penny at home, and she's the Shih Tzu, and she's 4 years old, and she's a bit overweight, and everybody calls her fat. I call her chubby, but she's a Shih Tzu, and she does really good. So may love abound.
In these abundant blessings, may love abound.
Donna and I went to come from away last night at the Jubilee, and I don't think there's a better example of people expressing love and gifts to others and charity and generousness, and I think we could all learn from the people of Newfoundland in this abundant blessing.
May love abound. For the gift of community and the opportunity to be with one another. In this abundant blessing, may love abound.
How could anyone
A very famous series of books about a boy wizard begins this way. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Good old normal. An idea that has remarkable staying power. The idea that there's some unspoken standard of everythingness that represents how we ought to live or behave or look like or be. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, the reluctant caretakers of the orphaned boy wizard Harry Potter, were proud to be normal. Not to be noticed, not to be special. They wanted to blend in and fit the cookie-cutter mold of what it was to be a middle-class, ordinary family. The fact that a boy was thrust into their lives who was decidedly unusual, with hair that would never stay where it was put, with a strange scar on his forehead shaped like a lightning bolt, and around whom surprising, unusual, and to them embarrassing things would happen. This all was a mortifying disgrace to the Dursleys. Most of us, as children and teenagers, can relate to spending time trying to, quote, act normal. Anyone struggling with being in any number of closets, afraid of what might happen if people knew the real me, understand it too. It's a special kind of hell. To think you need to be one way and then do everything in your power to seem like it. The path of accepting who you are, even if it turns out that who you are involves standing out like a sore thumb, is different for everyone. But in common to it all is that it's never easy to break the threshold of what will everyone think. Whether we're 7 or 13, 48 or 77, at some point along our journey, we've encountered having to come to terms with what it means when we're not what someone expects of us, or when we're more than what anyone thought. And hopefully at some point along that journey, we encounter the wisdom that normal is a fantasy far more ridiculous than a secret school for wizards. Because how does the saying go? Normal is just a setting on your dryer. Nobody is normal. And those who think they are just haven't met or come to terms with the freaky, nerdy, outcast, amazing, unique person hiding inside of them. The word normal, or indeed that phrase that's become overused in the last little while, as we emerge from pandemic isolation and we seek to build a new normal. It's tricky, isn't it? Because in that phrase, it seems to be referring to what we're comfortable with is no longer reality. That normal is somehow what we've been accustomed to. Normal is what we can expect out of our day-to-day experience. And so adjusting to a new normal is taking a passenger seat of adjustment. It's saying the world has changed and now I must get comfortable with it, to make it my normal. Now, this is precisely why I want today, in our series, to link the idea of looking beyond that word normal. I want to link that beyond to what we've just adjusted to, toward what we ourselves create. And for that, we need to talk about hope. So I'm going to tell you a story. This is the parable of the fig tree. A farmer had a fig tree growing in their vineyard and came looking for fruit on it, but didn't find any. So said to the vine keeper, "See here, for 3 years in a row I have come looking for fruit on this tree and haven't found any. Cut it down. Why should it be using the nutrients of the soil?" And in response, the vine keeper said, "Let it stand 1 more year until I get a chance to dig around it and work in some fertilizer. Maybe it will produce next year, but if it doesn't, we can go ahead and cut it down." It's when the fig tree hasn't created any fruit in 3 years that an attitude of hopefulness is needed the most. This isn't the first crack at a tree that is having an issue. When the tree's in full bloom, does that require anything? We would come upon the tree, we would look at it, and we would say, "Look at that tree, it's doing great." When all is well with our lives, with our health, with our friends, with our work, when it's easy to whistle a tune, we don't give hope a second thought. When we need it most is when we can't find any fruit growing in a difficult relationship, in a health crisis, in conflict, or in dry times. It's there when we need it most, even when the most patient gardener would think that this bloody tree is dead, cut it down. That is when we need that hopeful voice of the vine keeper, the friend who's able to see a way forward, the presence that offers some comfort and ignites a glimmer of hope. That's when we need someone to say to us, "Well, what if we did this?" What is that hope? And as with much of our Nerd Wisdom series, I suggest we turn to science for a bit. David B. Feldmanis, the J. Thomas and Kathleen McCarthy professor in the Department of Counseling Psychology at Santa Clara University in California, writes this: "Hope is not wishful thinking, optimism, or the power of positive thinking. Hope isn't the same as glass half full attitude. Hope is applicable even when the glass is only a third full or has nothing in it at all. That's because true hope isn't about living in a fantasy world, it's about living in this one. It doesn't deny suffering and pain." We relate that to the story of the vineyard. We don't deny that there's something wrong with the tree, but rather, hope asks us what we're going to do in light of the fact that there's something wrong with the tree. That's why it's different than putting on rose-colored glasses. That's why hope is different than just having a go-get-'em positive attitude, because hope acknowledges the reality, often painful, difficult reality, of whatever life situation we're in. The most widely researched model of hope in the psychological literature is known simply as hope theory. Although dubbed a theory, this model has been supported by hundreds of studies since it was first proposed by C.R. Snyder in 1989. Snyder took a grassroots approach. Over the course of the year, he approached community leaders, including politicians, clergy, educators, business leaders, and lots of others, asking them to name the most hopeful people they knew, using whatever definition of hope they wanted. And then he interviewed as many people on those lists as he could. And what he discovered was a surprisingly simple yet powerful view of hope that still stands in the literature today. Namely, he realized that hopeful people share three things in common: goals, pathways, and agency. And now, although Snyder called these three things components of hope, it may be more useful to think of them as the three conditions for hope to survive. So, just for a minute, let's talk about each of those. First, he said hopeful interviewees had a clear sense of what their goals were. Across many areas of life, career-related or social or even spiritual aspirations, they had some goals and they felt committed to those goals. And second, those hopeful interviewees had pathways, which we might call plans or strategies, objectives, they believed would allow them to reach their goal. In other words, they believed that there was at least a tiny something that they could do to move toward achieving the goals that they'd embraced. And according to hope theory, when people don't act, it's often because they don't believe there's any way to get to where they want to go. This feeling of hopelessness. There's no way for me to get from here to there. There's no pathway that exists. It just seems too long, too difficult. But hopeful people in these studies tend to break down complex or difficult pathways into small, tiny steps that can be tackled one at a time. And finally, the third component of hope, interviewees had an abiding belief in their capabilities, something he called agency. Although they recognized that working toward their goals would be really hard, would be challenging, they still believed deep down that they might be capable of accomplishing them, that they could do this, they could see the steps, and they could do each of those steps if they kept trying. In all of this, let's remember Snyder and then countless others that have come after him and repeated such work. What they've all discovered is that hope is more than a feeling. Although a hopeful feeling can buoy us when we're feeling down, it's not going to solve our problems. Hope is so often identified as a religious notion. Oh, you have a faith. You're a religious person. You're a spiritual person. You must have hope. As if it were something to just start feeling on the inside, or just that miraculously comes upon you, like what? I don't know, a dove or a sprinkling of water or a miracle or something. But hope is not passive. Hope, more than anything, is a way of thinking that pushes us to take action. Hope is a cognitive process. So let's look back at that story of the tree. There isn't just a blind hope. There isn't just kind of a passive wish for this tree to get better and start producing fruit. The goal, what's the goal? A healthy tree that produces figs, okay? The owner gives the vine keeper the agency and the ability to do something about it. We have the tools among us to solve this problem. We can do this. And 3, that same vinekeeper has an actionable plan to take steps. We're going to dig around it. We're going to add some fertilizer. We're going to tend to it for a year. Right there in that ancient story are the three components of hope. So whenever we feel hopeless, perhaps you've got a vinekeeper in your life. Perhaps you've got a friend that specializes in this kind of activity, of pointing out some kind of way forward, of reminding you of your agency, that you're capable, that you're strong. Did you try this little step? What would happen if you did that? Perhaps you've got that person in your life, in which case, total gratitude, right? If we don't have that person in our life, we can ask ourselves what we can do to set the conditions for hope in our life and in the world around us. What goals are meaningful to us? What pathways can we enact, even small ones, to move towards those goals? And what inspires our strength and motivation? What helps us to keep with the will to keep on going when things seem unimaginably tough? Those are hopeful questions. That's hopeful work that we do with ourselves. I want to end with one last story, if I may. This time about a woman named Melanie, diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The first doctor she'd seen admitted to her that he was caught between these two difficult places. On the one hand, Melanie knew the chances of survival were very slim. She'd done her research. So to focus on that might give her false and unrealistic hope. To focus on that very slim chance of survival and not address anything else. And on the other hand, if he spoke to her about the realities of the possibly short time she had left, getting her affairs in order and doing the things she wants to do because the time was short, would this not dash any little hope that she did have? And this doctor knew the dilemma of those two sides and how to walk the line between them. Melanie's second doctor, the specialist, came to her and said these words, Melanie reported. She said, "I know you're afraid, and I don't blame you for that. What you're facing is one of the hardest cancers I know. We're going to try our best in whatever treatment you choose. And maybe we will succeed. But no matter what happens, I won't abandon you through all of this. So what is it that you want for your life right now?" Melanie's response to that doctor was, "You have no idea how important it is for me to hear you say that. I want to do everything I can to beat cancer, but also I want to make sure the pain is controlled and that whatever treatment we choose still leaves plenty of room to check the boxes on my bucket list, just in case." Melanie said that at that moment, when the doctor asked that question and put it that way, she had hope. Not a hope based on seeing the world through rosy glasses or assuming that everything would magically turn out all right. Her hope was grounded in something more solid than mere positive thinking. Her hope was grounded in the fact that there were goals worth striving for, even in a shortened, expected life, and that someone would be there to help her. So whether well or ailing, whether young or old, we're all thinking about what it means to be back to normal, to return to our conversation about normal. But at the same time, we want to experience life beyond what others expect or think of us, beyond what we've simply adjusted to. We want to experience a life that we help create. So whatever gets explained as this is the new normal, forget it. Normal is what we create. Let's move past that whole notion. Let's ask different questions. What do we want from our life? What do we want for our community? What do we want for our world? These are for us to imagine and for us to set our minds to, not for the world to tell us. And as the studies say, if we work on those three components of hope, that we have goals for what we want our lives and the world to look like, that we have ways that we might get there, and that we are strong enough and have the agency to do it. If we do those things, then the studies tell us that we will likely be better off, healthier, and happier for it, because we have a grounded hope in our lives. So let's strive for something beyond normal and make of the weeks ahead something unique and worth living for, something of our own creation. Let's do it, and let's do it together. We have the strength. So may it be so in lots of different ways.
Underneath the
into the reality, mystery, and wonder that is our living. We want to pour our whole selves, what we know and what we don't, what we hope and what we fear. And as we pour ourselves into that work, we open ourselves to change, creating the space for new things, reframing our experiences, bringing ourselves face to face with our triumphs and our failures, and bringing us face to face with one another.
The eating table has long been a sign and symbol of this journey into something new. It's the place of community, it's a place of family, of conversation, of negotiation, of sharing values, fears, dreams, and strategies. Like all those who have gathered around their tables, sharing a meal, breaking bread, enjoying the fruits of partnership with the earth. Throughout time, we join with them in solidarity, in the commitment to live a just and loving humanity, and to be a community along the way. So may we live from the depth of that creative and affirming spirit, strengthening our compassion and broadening our hope so that we can celebrate our common dreams. And we celebrate all those things at this table.
And so, as it has been done, it will be done again. We share this bread to feed our hope, and we share this fruit to strengthen our community with one another.
We're reminded that in this community, all are welcome. You do not need to be a member of this church or any church. You don't need to believe this, that, or the other to partake in this ritual of belonging and community and celebration. We do this for ourselves and we do this for each other. And so if you feel like you want to participate, then please participate. We have individual cups of grapes and bread. Please come and just select a cup and return to your seat. No need to go row by row. Whenever you feel like coming forward, come select a cup. There are some cups with no bread, and there will be a time to enjoy the music, to focus on the meaning of community, of this meal as we share it.
nourished by bread and connected by the fruit of the vine, we take a moment with the words we have to strengthen our intentions as to how it is we would live as we move from this circle with one another into all the circles into which life calls us. We pray with one another, offering the words you find before you. What does it take to be hopeful? Where does inspiration come? How does it mold us to its liking? Place fire in our bones and set us out upon the world, eager to challenge and change, to rearrange priorities. Is it in the stillness of a moment, the crashing waves upon the beach, a silent knowing smile, a raucous laugh that rings and rolls around the room? What is it that will fill us, overflow our boundaries, color all our withered spaces, and in its workings make us whole? We seek to be open and inspired by the questions, and questing in a hopefulness that infuses us. Amen. It's light that wakes us to each new day. We go to live in the light of our highest humanity and to be light in the world, to light one another's way toward hope and possibility, and to take the tiny steps that move us toward all that we know to be faithful, hopeful, and true. We go awakened to live as we love, to love as we live.